So I wanted to show you guys something else you can do with the Pythagorean theorem. It's great for finding the missing side of a right triangle, but over the next 2 days, I'm going to show you some other things you can do with it that makes it a little more useful. If you know all of the sides of a triangle, like if I just threw three numbers at you and say, hey, these are the sides of a triangle, you can use the Pythagorean theorem to see if it is a right triangle. Without using a protractor, without having to actually measure any angles, you can tell me if one of them is 90 degrees. So the way you do that, like I said, if I just threw some numbers at you, if I said, let's look at this triangle, that it's a triangle, but the sides are, say, 6, 8, and I don't know, 9. What you can do, if you know all three sides, is plug those numbers in to the Pythagorean theorem and see if it works. If it works, if the math works out on it, your triangle happened to be a right triangle. Now, for this to happen, for this to work, for us to be able to do it, you have to have this idea in your head that the hypotenuse in your triangle, right, the one across from the right angle, is always the biggest side. So what I mean by that, when I'm plugging these numbers in, you have to make sure that you put the right number in the C spot. So that being said, I know that this is the biggest because it's the hypotenuse, biggest. So that spot is going to be reserved for the biggest number in the set of the three. So when I plug these in, I'm going to plug in 6 squared, I'm going to plug in 8 squared, and I'm going to plug in 9 squared. And if you notice, I didn't put an equal sign there because I don't know if it's equal. I'm a math person. I don't want to put a sign in there if it's not the right sign. So I'm just going to kind of leave that a little loose and do the math first and see if the two sides are equal. If they're equal, great. I can put an equal sign in there, which means it was a right triangle. If they're not equal, it's some other kind of triangle. And we'll get into the other kinds tomorrow. So for now, just grab your calculator or work these out longhand. I know that 6 squared is 36. I know that 8 squared is 64. And I know that 9 squared is 81. So these two guys on the left here, when I add up my a squared and b squared, that is 100. And I know that my c squared is 81. So 100 and 81, you're comparing those two. Since they are not equal, this is not a right triangle. And that's basically your answer. The question every single time is this a right triangle? Your answer, since you've done the math on it, it's not right. Now, by not right, I don't mean wrong. Not right, I mean not a right angle, or just, no. So your homework, your homework's going to be formatted a little bit differently. It's basically going to be true, false, but you have to do the math to make sure you get it right. Otherwise, you're just kind of shot in the dark here. So real quick, we'll run through these, and it's the same idea. What you have to do every single time when you look at one of these is identify which one is going to be used as your C value, because they're not always going to be in order. This one here, 9, 15, 10, I'm going to use 15 as the C. I'm not going to use 10 as the C. 15 again here. There's a lot of 15s there, right? I'm just going through and highlighting which ones I'm going to count as my C. So when I set these up, just do like a real quick scan. Okay, this is the biggest. This is my C. So when I set these up, 6 squared, 8 squared, 10 squared. So what you should be able to do if you're using a scientific calculator, you can do the left-hand side all at once. 6 squared plus 8 squared, that's 100. You're comparing that to just 10 squared. That's 100. So this guy's a yes, right? This one is a right triangle. 100 equals 100. Same thing here. 9 squared plus 10 squared, 15 squared. So 9 squared plus 10 squared, that's 181. And then 15 squared is 225. So this guy's a no. If you're having calculator issues, please let me know. If you're in person, I have calculators. This will take you like 2 seconds to type in on a calculator. If you're trying to do this on your phone, I can help you with that too. You just need to let me see what your calculator looks like. So if you're remote, take a screenshot of your calculator and send it to me. If it's an iPhone, if it's an Apple calculator, it's pretty easy. Android, I'm not real familiar with. So 3 squared plus 5 squared equals 7 squared. I know 7 squared is 49. 9 and 25 is 34. So that guy's a no. Okay. 9 squared, 13 squared, 15 squared. This is 225. And calculator, 81 and 169. I know my squares, but I don't know what they add up to. So this guy's 250. This is another no. 10 squared and 12 squared. Maybe it's a good thing all these 15s were in here. It's 225 again. 10 squared and 12 squared is 244. So not equal. That's a no. And then last one here. Let me get my face out of the way. 4 squared, 8 squared, 10 squared, 16 and 64. What is 16, 64, 70, 80 compared to 100? So out of this whole mess, we only had one yes. Your homework, it's not going to be one yes and the rest no. Just do the math, check it. This isn't a difficult assignment. It's basically, do you know how to use your calculator and do you know what the results mean? Okay, take the two smaller ones, squared and added together, not added together then squared, that's different. Square them first and add them together and compare that to the biggest one by itself, squared.